Hello and welcome into another edition of The Final Drive here on DMVSTREAM.COM. I'm Jeremy Huber here with you as we wrap up the final week of the regular season and pretty much everywhere in the area. Of course, you've got a few outlyings. I guess I'm not saying outlying because they're mostly in the city close to D.C. The DCIA, they go ahead and wrap their season up next week, their regular season. Of course, the IAC, some of those private schools, they are wrapping things up next week. But the majority of your teams wrapping things up tonight. Virginia Public Schools, Maryland Public Schools, also the WCAC wrapping things up this weekend. A lot of games tomorrow, but of course, big one tonight. We'll talk about that as well on the show. If you want to go ahead and get in touch with us, do it at the Final Drive. Go ahead and tweet us at DMV Stream, hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. Again, that's DMV Stream, hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. Again, I'm Jeremy Huber, taking you through the night in DMV High School Football. Going to do our best to get you up to date on everything going on when it comes to the playoffs. We're kind of leaning heavily on All Met Sports. Didn't have a chance to get out my calculator this time and figure everything out, but those guys did a great job and gonna kind of laid out the scenarios. So we'll try and do that as we move through the show, as we go through the scores, a couple of notes on where teams have kind of filtered out there. So we'll try and let you know everything we know. Also joining us on the show tonight will be the head coach of the Tuscarora Huskies, Mike Burnett. He will join us on the show in just a bit, so we'll hear from Coach Burnett. But again, his team with a big win tonight. They knocked off Broad Run in a thrilling comeback victory. Huskies stay unbeaten on the year. 43-42 came back from 2 touchdowns down late to go ahead and win that. Another come-from-behind victory for Tuscarora, starting to make old hat of that with their quarterback Daniel Smith leading another comeback drive as they knock off their Loudoun County rival and again proved a 10-0 on the season. But let's start things off with our top 20, the All Met Sports top 20, the teams playing in that tonight. Of course, the number 1 team, they were off tonight. They'll play tomorrow. They'll be number 1 Gonzaga there taking on number 17 St. John's in their long-standing rivalry. That one will be at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Of course, Gonzaga wins that one. They will be the top seed in the WCAC. I think they already are because they'll have a head-to-head over DeMatha, the only team that can actually catch them. Big one for St. John's tomorrow. They lose that, they could end up in a 3-way tie with Good Counsel and McNamara, and depending on how things shake out, could actually end up knocked out of the playoff race. So obviously a huge one for Gonzaga in that contest. Elsewhere, number 2 Damascus, strong as ever. They beat Blair tonight 41-7. Damascus, very likely the top seed in 3A West with the win. They were fighting out with Linganore, but Blair, pretty good team with some wins, should put Damascus over the top for that top seed. A thriller tonight in Burke as number 4 South County beat number 3 Lake Braddock 33-30 in overtime. DeMarcus Ramsey with the game-winning touchdown from 10 yards out on the first play of South County's possession in overtime. Lake Braddock had gotten a field goal, actually, albeit had a chance to win it in regulation through a late interception inside the South County 20-yard line. South County kneeled it out, then it goes into overtime and score, and DeMarcus Ramsey with the score to put South County up. They maintain their unbeaten record. Really gives the Stallions a lot as they get the top seed in 6A North with that win. They also are the Conference 7 champions with that win. And, of course, South County knocking off Westfield earlier in the season, knocking off Lake Braddock, really an unquestioned top seed for South County as they've had one heck of a year, and they'll look to go ahead and continue it. Number 5, DeMatha, a winner tonight over number 18, Good Counsel, 28-23. Stags likely going to slot in at the number 2 seed in the WCAC. Number 6, Old Mill finished their regular season off 10-0 as they beat Annapolis 45-12. They're also Anne Arundel County champs. Patriots, the top seed in 4A East. Number 7, Wise, a winner over Suitland tonight, 40-0. The Pumas will be your top seed in 4A South. It also opens up a door for Bowie. They will play Bladensburg tomorrow. Bowie wins that one. Very likely they'll be the number 4 seed. Of course, their reward for that would be a matchup with a devastating Wise team, but obviously Bowie would love to go ahead and get in the playoffs. Number 8, Tuscarora winner over Broad Run, 43-42. Tuskegee second straight 10-0 regular season. They made it all the way to the state championship game before losing last year. Number 9, Westfield rolls on. They finish up 9-1 on the year as they beat Chantilly 28-14 as they get ready for the playoffs. Number 10, Quince Orchard, a winner over Paint Branch 38-14. Quince Orchard, with that win, they clinched the top spot in 4A West. Paint Branch knocked out of the playoffs after a few years of being in and making some deep runs. The Panthers will be out with that loss tonight. Number 11, Howard beats Atherton 49-27, while number 12, Sherwood beats Einstein 42-7. Of course, Howard and Sherwood in the same region, and they both clinch playoff spots with that win tonight. Of course, the only question at this point is exactly where will they be when it all shakes out. Really close between Sherwood, Howard, and Bel Air. We'll see exactly after tonight where the MPSAA slots them out, but it looks like either Howard or Sherwood will be the top seed. The second team of that group will probably be the number 2. We shall see if Bel Air can sneak in. Number 13, Seneca Valley rolled over Gaithersburg tonight, 35-0. Seneca Valley likely going to be the number 3 in 3A West in Maryland, behind Linganore. Probably end up playing Linganore in the first round. Number 14, Duval in action tomorrow against Oxon Hill. It is a 2 p.m. start. Number 15, North Point over Northern tonight, 35-0. North Point, the number 2 seed in 4A East, as they finish the season off unbeaten. They'll be behind Old Mill. Will host a playoff game next week. Number 16, Episcopal there at Georgetown Prep tomorrow in a 1 p.m. start. That will be for the IAC championship. Number 19, Champ wraps up a 10-0 season, just 4 seasons after going 0-10, as they beat Freedom of South Riding 46-7. They're expected to be the second seed in the 6 and 4A West, behind Jefferson Forest. Jefferson Forest down in the Lynchburg area. They had a big win tonight, knocking off Brookville to likely clinch the number 1 seed. So Champ will be number 2 in the 12-team playoffs. Again, 4A West and one other grouping in Virginia. The only ones who play with 12 teams in their playoffs, so 4 first-round buys. Other ones are 16 teams apiece. So again, Champ will get a bye with that win tonight against their rivals from South Riding. Number 20, Madison rolls on after it finishes up 9-1 of the regular season, and they also clinched the Conference 6 championship with a win over Hayfield tonight, 53-20. So Madison, with those wins over South Lakes and Hayfield late in the season, clinch up that Conference 6 title. And with that, we're going to go ahead and we will now check in with the head coach of the Tuscarora Huskies. Talked about their score earlier. Mike Burnett, his squad with a big win tonight as they knocked off Broad Run, came back to do it 43-42, had a chance to catch up with Coach Burnett a little bit earlier on in the night, talked to him about everything in that game and a few other topics as well. Head coach Mike Burnett of the Tuscarora Huskies here on the final drive. Well, Coach Burnett, you know the old Rudy Tomjanovich saying, never underestimate the heart of a champion. Well, your guys showed it in spades tonight. Daniel Smith leads it. Talk about the comeback win against Broad Run tonight.
Yeah, it's hard to put in words, the heart of this team. We put ourselves behind the whole game, and, it just looked almost impossible at one point. But, when you got kids who don't quit and you got a great quarterback who's really cool under pressure, great things can happen, and that's what we saw tonight.
Talk about that last drive, you guys. You blocked the field goal to set yourself up for it. That pretty much would have ended the game. You might have had a shot at it, but it was really, really bleak at that point. What'd you say to Daniel as they took the field to go out there and try and win the game?
Well, every Wednesday we do the same drill where we'll pick a yard line and we'll say we got one timeout and a minute 20 left, and and we kind of put together a drive. And so, for those guys that, you hope you kind of go back to that training and you realize, hey, that's just what we do in practice. And, to be honest, what makes it work is a quarterback who's just calm and cool. And he doesn't get rattled. He's not nervous. And I think that's what helped us there.
Now you guys get another big chunk play to help in that drive. You did the same thing against Potomac Falls in that comeback win against them. How are you guys able to go ahead and move the ball late game situations where you would think teams are trying to play at least some semblance of a prevent defense against you?
Well, to be honest, it's just both of those throws were just great throws. And, I think anyone will tell you that it's nearly impossible to defend a perfect throw. I look at both of those throws, and I don't know how I would defend them. And they're both to Nick Speroni, and he should get some credit too. I think he's deceptively fast. I think I've said that to a lot of people, and I think sometimes he can just sneak by you when you don't think he can.
Joined by Mike Burnett, the head coach of the Tuscarora Huskies, his team with a huge comeback win, 43-42 tonight against Broad Run to go 10-0 again this season. One more about this game tonight, Coach. This Broad Run team, obviously they've been down a little bit lately. Hembry been banged up. What did you see from them tonight in really giving you guys maybe the fight of the year?
Well, they're a great offensive team. I mean, they are. They got players back there, and we knew. We had to stop, the quarterback and Embry, and we couldn't do it. We just couldn't do it. And sometimes, that's what happens. And, to be honest, if you looked at it from their side, I'm sure they knew they had to stop Daniel Smith, and, they had a hard time doing it. And so I think what you really got to see was a lot of great players playing great. And, it's tough to stop them, and they're going to be tough to beat down the road.
And, of course, you guys could see them again in that loaded 5A North. Looking at this year's team, comparing it to last year's team, they both go 10-0 in the regular season. What's similar about last year's team? What is different about last year's team? And obviously, your running back not being there, that's a little bit different. But besides that, Noah Reimer's not being back there, the All-Met player. What's similar? What's different between these two teams?
Well, not a lot similar, and except for the fact that they believe in themselves and each other. This is a team. We graduated 17 players out of 22 starters. We graduated 9 on offense, and I think a lot of people would look at that and say, "Wow, this is a rebuilding year," or this team's not going to be what last year's team was. And last year's team was very dominant throughout the season. But this group just believes. They think they think, hey, what at no point did they want to rest on the laurels of last year and what we accomplished. I think that was the key, is that when I looked at these kids, I thought they didn't care about last year's team. They wanted to go out and make their own name, and I couldn't be more proud.
Now, I would assume these games probably some Maalox mashers for you, as Dick Vitale used to say, going right down the wire, give you some heartburn. But do you feel good about the fact that anything your team has really thrown in the playoffs, they've seen it before?
Yeah, that's another thing about tonight is that, we've won four games on our last drive. And it strangely enough, it didn't seem that strange. It just felt like, wow, here we are again. I can't believe this. And so I think it really helps. I think being in these kind of games certainly, can benefit us.
Coach, we'll get you out of there in this one. Obviously, you have the past at Broad Run, and they've cycled through where really no one, I think, was Coach Bayou still there. But when you think about coming to Tuscarora the way you did and starting something new, did you ever expect you to get it humming like this, or you'd have back-to-back undefeated regular seasons?
No, you never really think that way. I never did at Broad Run, and I really didn't hear, and it's I just feel really blessed. Ironically, this was my 100th win as a head coach in Virginia and in the last 10 years, and a lot of them came here. And it's you just really take the same attitude to every team, every program is just take one game at a time, play your best. And I've been really blessed to have good people around me, great coaches, great schools, great fans. The fan support's unbelievable. So I think there's a lot that goes into it.
Well, Coach, I can say that I remember you coming. We heard about this coach from California who'd had some success. Never my wildest dreams that I think you might be the kingpin of Loudoun County High School football, at least over this period. Congratulations again on all you've done this year and in the past, and go get them in the playoffs. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Thanks. I really, really appreciate it.
Mike Burnett, the head coach of the Tuscarora Huskies, wraps up his regular season at 10-0. as the Huskies storm back to beat Broad Run tonight by a count of 43-42. Tuskegee will be pretty high up in the playoffs. I believe they'll be the number 2 seed. I believe they were fighting it out with Massaponax, and Massaponax, I think, won tonight. We'll get a little more into that as we go in the show. Remember, we've got Virginia scores, Maryland scores to get you up to date on, also DC scores as well. We'll also take a look at how everything kind of breaks down in the PowerPoints. Also, effort to catch up with a few other coaches from some of the bigger games tonight. Hopefully, we'll chat with them as well. So stay tuned for it all. Remember, if you want to go ahead and tweet us, do it at DMV Stream. Hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. Again, that's DMV Stream. Hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. I'm Jeremy Huber. This is the Final Drive. We'll be back with more right after this. Looking for some of the best barbecue in the area? Well, then come on down to Monk's. Monk's Barbecue has all your favorites. Delicious pulled pork, tender, moist brisket, and dry rubbed ribs that just fall off the bone, as well as specialty items like pulled chicken, pastrami, and Kansas City burnt ends. Add in delicious sides like Monk's Special Baked Beans, smoked Gouda mac and cheese, vinegar coleslaw, and many more, and you can't get any better. That's Monk's Barbecue in the heart of Loudoun County, online at monksq.com. That's monks in the letter Q.com. And go to their Facebook page to find out more about their live music and drinks.
DMVSTREAM.com produces live broadcasts for professional, semi-pro, and amateur sporting events, as well as colleges, universities, high schools, AAU, and youth tournaments in the Mid-Atlantic. With a client list that includes ESPN, The Washington Post, Monumental Sports Network, CBS.com, USAFootball.com, USLacrosse.org, NCAA.com, the National Federation of High School Sports, and Georgetown University, among others, Synthesis Multimedia has emerged as the Mid-Atlantic's top provider of sports multimedia. Contact us today to learn more about streaming your events live.
Are you a fan of high school sports? Does high school sports attract the type of customers you want for your business? If so, then consider advertising here on The Final Drive. The Final Drive on DMVStream.com is a weekly show dedicated to high school football in the District, Maryland, and Virginia. We update scores and talk to the movers and shakers from Friday night's top games, and we preview the big matchups from Saturday's action. So consider being a part of The Final Drive. For more information about advertising on The Final Drive, contact Jeremy Huber at jrh0001@gmail.com. That's jrh0001@gmail.com. Montgomery Shade and Awning is a third-generation family business that sells and installs shade systems utilizing awnings and canopies. They specialize in both commercial and residential awnings and have been serving Northern Virginia since 1975. So check out what Rob, Lewis, Brian, and Tom can do for you. Montgomery Shade and Awning. Call 1-800-300-1941 or find them online at montgomeryawning.com. And welcome back into the Final Drive here on DMVStream.com. As we said, we're going to be catching up with a few coaches throughout the night. Another one has now joined us on the line. Head coach of the Marriott's Ridge Mustangs, head coach Marcus Lewis, joining us now on the line after his team with a 7-6 win over Reservoir in a key game in Maryland. Coach Lewis, first off, congratulations on your win tonight.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
No problem at all. And obviously, you guys have been doing some good things in Howard County this year. You take on a Reservoir team who was a top seed in 3A in their region. You guys were kind of still gunning for a playoff spot down in 2A, and you guys play really what looked like a kind of a knuckle-dragging nail-biter tonight as you see all the scoring in the fourth quarter. What was it like in tonight's matchup?
It was a good game. I mean, they're a playoff team. We're a playoff team. That was a playoff type of atmosphere, and like you said, it was a slugfest. We had trouble moving the ball on offense, but so did they. And we got a lucky break in the third quarter on a big pass, and which led to our first touchdown. But being a good team, they made a run right back at us, and we were fortunate enough to stop the two-point conversion.
Yeah, I saw they went for the 2-point conversion. Was there a reason that you saw for them going for that, and what did you guys kind of do to stop it?
Well, the kicking game wasn't really strong that we saw on film, so I figured that they may go for two, which they did. they tried to throw a pass out in the flat, and it looked to be a miscommunication between the receiver and the quarterback because nobody was out there where the ball was thrown. So I'm glad they went for two, and it helped us, and the defense stood tall like it did most of the night.
Talking to Marcus Lewis, head coach at Marriott's Ridge, his team with a hard-fought 7-6 win over Reservoir tonight. And Coach Lewis, obviously this one gets you guys into the playoffs and some quality teams in 2A West. Oakland Mills, one of them, South Carroll as well. Do you have any idea where you guys kind of slot in things when it comes to the playoffs in 2A West?
Yeah, the way I just figured the points out, and the way I figured it, we're going to be the third seed, and I think we're going to the number 2 seed, South Carroll. And number 1, Oakland Mills will be hosting number 4, Walkersville.
And obviously, you guys in Howard County, I talked to Coach Strunk early in the season, and he really said, look, there's some quality football played here, and there's a lot of parity. And obviously, you guys, it's looking at your schedule. You have the close one with River Hill. You drop, you lose a close one to Glen Elk. It seems like you guys really can play with anybody. And I saw really how you guys had it going there and kind of up and down the middle of the season. How do you feel your team is kind of going along right now as we get towards the end of the year?
I think we're progressing like a playoff team should. We play solid defense, and if we can generate offense, we'll be okay. But as you know, in playoff time, the defenses tend to tighten up, and there's not a lot of room for error offensively.
Talking to Marcus Lewis from Marriott's Ridge. I think, Coach, not everybody familiar with you guys, exactly what you're doing. I know in the D.C. area a little bit. You guys a little bit out there, but I know a lot of folks following everybody around. Who are some guys really to watch out for as you guys make it to the playoffs and go in a little bit if you're going to make a deep run?
For our team individually?
Yes.
Okay. Our defense is pretty strong, led by our inside linebacker. His name is Darren Williams. He's a senior, number 9. Also, our defensive end is pretty good, number 88, Sammy Costa. But the defense is definitely the strength of our team. And, offensively, we got a big line, led by Nick Rosen, our right tackle, and then our left guard, Michael Villano. So.
And obviously doing some good things as you guys have been able to move through. And again, going into tonight's game, a little backtracking a bit with facing a Reservoir team. Are you guys used to that kind of having some teams on your schedule? Because I know it can kind of be disparate when you talk about sizes of schools. Is there ever even a inkling or thinking about that, or do you guys just say, hey, let's just strap them up and see what happens?
Yeah, our schedule, Howard County doesn't allow us pretty much any flexibility in scheduling, so we pretty much have to play whoever we because there's so many schools within the conference. So like you said, we'll just play whoever it is we get, strap it up, and let's go. This kind of success is pretty new. It's my 3rd year here at Marriott's Ridge, and there was a 3-year period where Marriott's Ridge didn't win. From 2009 to 2012, the school lost 32 straight games in football. My first year, we went 1-9, and then the last 2 years, obviously, we went 7-4, lost in the first round of the playoffs last year, and then this story for this year is still waiting to be written. We're 8-2 and going forward.
And, Coach, was there anything when you came into the program that really you said to yourself, hey, we've got to do this to turn things around?
Yeah, we needed to change the culture, obviously. Some of the guys that were in the program had kind of accepted what was going on. So the main thing was to change that attitude. And then we got some good kids in. We had some hungry kids in that were tired of it. And, you combine those two things, and it's taken us to where we are right now.
And obviously it's a pretty good place as you're firmly in the playoffs in Maryland and looking to extend your season as far as you can. Marcus Lewis, head coach of Marriott's Ridge, congratulations on the big win tonight, and thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me. Take care.
You as well. Coach Lewis doing some very good things at Marriott's Ridge as you look. And as he mentioned, Howard County, really not a lot of flexibility. It's kind of everybody plays each other in Howard County, and they're just a 2A school. And as you said, he kind of has the attitude of, hey, we've got to go ahead and just strap it up because we don't have any choice. It's you got to win, you got to beat teams. It's kind of fitting considering they are a little bit closer. They're one of the teams that kind of is covered both by the Baltimore Sun and the Washington Post. And if you think about it, really, Buck Showalter, the Orioles manager, when he first came into Baltimore, said, we don't get any extra points for the Yankees and the Red Sox having more money than we do. And it was kind of like you need to find a way to win. And obviously, Marriott's Ridge has been able to go ahead and do that. As they finish their season up 8-2, they will be in the playoffs, and a big win for them tonight. Marriott's Ridge knocking off a Reservoir team who was looking to be the top seed in their region. Let's go ahead and get back on the scoreboard. We ran down the top 20 for you earlier on. We'll get back to that in just a second. Let's get over into D.C. Balua winner tonight over Coolidge, 38-12. Elsewhere, it was H.D. Woodson beating Anacostia 42 to nothing. And then it was Wilson over Dunbar 34-7. So right now, Wilson wrapping things up at 34. They're lost the first game of the season against Good Counsel. Haven't lost since, I believe, and this is still kind of been up in the air. Can't get confirmation on it, but they are supposed to wrap up that week of games that were basically hurricaned out. I believe it was that week, or maybe it was the rain out week. Those ones kind of hit back to back, but it's supposed to be. I think they're going to play that round of games that were just completely blown out. They're supposed to play those next week. So if that is the case, Wilson will be playing Blue, and that could be for the top spot in the DCIA playoffs. Either way, really between, it looks like Wilson, and maybe the big thing there is Blue and Wilson trying to avoid a matchup with H.D. Woodson, who's seemingly coming on right now. In the Stripes division, it's Bell with a big win tonight over Phelps, 52-0. Eastern over Cardozo, 40-0. Looks like Bell and Eastern again in a collision course when it comes to the Gravy Bowl, the Stripes Championship. Over in Maryland, Arundel with a win tonight over Severna Park, 61-30. Of course, Arundel will not make the playoffs this year. Poolesville over Blake, 21-14. Broadneck over Southern, 35-6. Broadneck into the playoffs in 4A East, likely as the number 4 seed. Glenelg beat Centennial 49-6. Glenelg into the playoffs in 3A East. Chopticon over Great Mills, 24-0. It was Gwynn Park over Friendly, 34-24. Gwynn Park trying to keep those playoff hopes alive as they came in a really, really crowded division, or a crowded region, I should say, as Gwynn Park was part of that group in 2A South that included Thomas Stone, who was in already. Calvert, Patuxent, Westlake, and Largo all had a chance to win their way in. Gwynn Park, Friendly, and Douglas needing some wins and help. So Gwynn Park takes care of their end of things. Some of those teams that we mentioned before falling, we'll talk about those in just a second. But Calvert and Westlake both going down, and I believe Largo still, they actually, I believe, in action tomorrow, so they could still lose as well. Elsewhere, Thomas Stone over Huntingtown, 42-9. Thomas Stone very likely going to be your top seed in 2A South. Elsewhere in Maryland, Northwood over Kennedy, 37-26. Lackey beat Calvert tonight, 27-21. Very well may have eliminated Calvert from playoff contention. St. Charles over Leonardtown, 37-21. It was Hammond over Longreach, 18-14. Magruder beat Rockville, 55-27. As we talked about, Marriott's Ridge over Reservoir, 7-6. Coach telling you all about it. Coach Lewis going ahead and letting you know that in that matchup, it was Marriott's Ridge being able to jump up into the 3 seed, as they will likely face off, or at least he did the PowerPoints. They're going to be facing off with South Carroll. Oakland Mills will be the top seed. It looks like they'll be playing a winner of or between Walkersville and Liberty to next week's first round of the playoffs. Elsewhere, it was Longreach. It was tonight. La Plata falling to McDonough, 27-21. Glen Burnie beats Meade, 23-12. Chesapeake over North County, 29-26. Chesapeake into the playoffs, and that was their They are likely going to be the second seed. This is also their first playoff appearance in school history. South River over Northeast, 36-13. Northwestern beat High Point tonight, 36-0. It was Oakland Mills over Wild Lake, 40-32. Oakland Mills, the Scorpions in with that win. And, of course, as Coach Lewis told us, it's going to be Oakland Mills, the top seed in 2A West, with their win tonight over a pretty nice Wild Lake team. It was Patuxent over Westlake, 42-6. Patuxent clinches a playoff spot with that win, and that jumbled 2A South. Patuxent going to be in, so it looks like they'll be somewhere behind Thomas Stone, maybe even as high as the number 2 seed. Richard Montgomery beat Randallstown 30-14. Looks like Richard Montgomery going to be the number 2 seed in 4A West behind Quince Orchard. And they'll probably end up having a rematch with Northwest, the team that dealt them their only loss of the season. River Hill, big win over Mount Hebron tonight, 43-0. Clarksburg closes their season out with a 47-40 win over Springbrook. Churchill over Walter Johnson, 40-7. It was Watkins Mill over Wheaton tonight, 33-0 with the win. Watkins Mill clinches a playoff berth, and interestingly enough, there's a very good chance they could end up playing Wheaton next week. So the team that they just beat, they could end up going to exactly the same place as Watkins Mill won that one on the road. Really, they got in. They were guaranteed to get in with a win. Came in this week where Potomac and Wheaton were the 1 and 2 seeds in 3A South. It looks like Watkins Mill, again, very well may play Wheaton next week. The Northern could have something to say about it. Elsewhere, it was Whitman over Bethesda Chevy Chase, 26-20. Northwest big over Wooten, 49-7. So, of course, Northwest likely going to be the 3 seed behind Richard Montgomery in Maryland. Elsewhere, let's get over to Virginia, where West Springfield beat Annandale tonight, 43-34. West Springfield likely, as they've moved through, are going to be in the playoff hunt. Actually, already are in. They're going to be a bit of a lower seed, but West Springfield into the playoffs. They go on a high note with a win over Annandale. Brentsville beat Culpeper tonight, 28-9. Brentsville stops a 4-game losing skid and clinches a playoff berth, and really they're going to be happy in Nokesville tonight. They're already into the playoffs, but it's their first playoff berth since 2006 and their first winning season since 2002. Potomac Falls into the playoffs in 5A North as they beat Edison 38-7. South Lakes also into the playoffs. They beat Fairfax tonight 46-7. Freedom of Woodbridge they fought a Colonial Forge in double overtime, 41-34. That could have changed some things around. Instead, Colonial Forge holds serve, and they believe they're going to be the number 1 seed in the playoffs. That's Colonial Forge. Again, remember, a little bit funny how they do things there, where Forge actually is the top seed in the 6A South in their bracket. Down in 6A South, because of the disparity of teams, you've got teams, Hilton's in that bracket, Forest Park, Woodbridge, those schools all in that bracket, along with teams from Virginia Beach. So you're talking about Ocean Lakes, some of the powerhouses down there. So they do it 8-8 instead of one big 16-team bracket. Colonial Forge, believe, had the number 1 seed, had wrapped it up last week. So again, it really helps them out getting the win over Freedom, where Freedom really kind of playing for their playoff lives in that one. Elsewhere, it was a Woodbridge over Garfield, 17-0. So Woodbridge going to be into the playoffs. Congratulations to them after I believe a year absence. George Mason into the playoffs. George Mason in 2A in Virginia, but Mason with a nice win tonight over Central of Woodstock, 43-19. So they're in 2A East. Elsewhere, as we mentioned, Hilton, a big win tonight. They beat Forest Park 52-0. So the Bulldogs looking pretty good after some early season struggles. Marshall big over Jefferson. The Statesmen into the playoffs in 5A. Elsewhere, Langley over McLean, 27-7. As Langley gets the win over their rivals from just across town. Langley was in contention for a playoff spot. Not sure if they get in. Needed some help. I don't think they got it, as they needed a lot of teams to go ahead and lose in front of them. And a few teams like Washington and Lee actually did get wins. So we'll see exactly how things break down. We'll get some official word, I'm sure, later on tonight. Elsewhere, it was Wakefield winning the Conference 13 title as they beat Lee 50-18. A big shocker in Leesburg. We talked about about. There's, of course, 3 teams in Leesburg in Virginia, as Tuscarora got the shocking comeback victory tonight. Well, one of the teams in Leesburg with a shocker as well, as it was Loudoun County knocking off Heritage 43-41, handing Heritage their 4th straight loss to close the season. The Raiders coming back and getting the win, just moved to 3-7 on the year. And this is actually kind of funny, as Loudoun County, at least the last 2 years, and maybe the last 3, had kind of had a higher ranked team and had dropped late season games to Heritage, really ones that people didn't expect. Well, the Raiders returned the favor tonight against Heritage, getting the win 43-3. And it appears that Heritage is still going to be able to make the playoffs, but it may be a bit of a nail biter. They already were considered in, as there were a few Loudoun County teams kind of at the bottom of 4A West. Remember, that's the 12-team bracket where only 12 teams make it. And Heritage, again, was, had some good things going, and they lose to Woodgrove. No shame there. Kind of got beaten up there. Then they lose to Champ, lose to Dominion, and then they lose to rival Loudoun County tonight, 43-41. West Potomac over Mount Vernon, 40-6. West Potomac going to be in the playoffs. Oakton over Herndon tonight by a count of 35-0. Oakton already in. Actually, they wrapped up the regular season up at 5-5. So then we'll see who they end up drawing in the playoffs. Osborne, a win over Osborne Park tonight, 14-7, as Chris Samuels wraps up his first season as the Eagles head coach. Dominion big over Parkview, 59-0. Titans going to have to sweat it out. They were right on the bubble for a playoff berth. Probably going to have to see what some things happen down in Southern Virginia. May end up coming down to a last second PowerPoints and things like that. We'll see exactly how it breaks down, but it's the Titans kind of right on the edge of getting in that 12-team matchup. Elsewhere, it was Battlefield beating Patriot 34-19. Battlefield locks up a home game in the playoffs in 5A North. Potomac, they are eliminated. Elsewhere, it was Stafford over Potomac of Virginia, 20-16. Potomac eliminated from playoff contention. Robinson over Centerville, 28-7 to finish up at 7-3. Robinson should get a pretty good seed in the playoffs. Centerville, will get in. They'll be pretty low. And again, after going to 2 straight state championships, little different entry point for the Wildcats. Stonebridge wins the first ever matchup with Briar Woods. The Bulldogs beat the Falcons 28-17. Stonebridge looking at a home game in the playoffs with that win, while Briar Woods finishes up 3-7, but very likely going to make the playoffs. And if you're wondering to yourself, and I'm sure it's going to be like the college football playoff, people are going to say, well, how did they get in with such a bad record? Here's their schedule, folks. It's one for the ages, as Briar Woods got the ultimate tough draw when it comes to schedules. Run it down for you. Undefeated Tuscarora, undefeated South County their first 2 games. They fall to South Lakes, who's the runner-up in Conference 6. They fall to West Potomac, who finishes 3rd place in that behind, I believe 3rd place in that rugged 6 Conference 7 in Virginia behind. Of course, that's South County and Lake Braddock's conference. They fall to them late in a 2-point game, block field goal there, fought a Broad Run. They beat Lee. Then they also ended up beating South Lakes. That's one of the teams they beat. Kind of overran that one. Then we had a game against Westfield, then a game against Potomac Falls will make the playoffs. Then they beat Chantilly, and then they lose to Stonebridge. So really, by my count, I believe there is at least 8 playoff teams on that schedule, maybe even more, depending on what happens with Chantilly. They may be able to sneak in as well. It could be a 9-team playoff schedule, and Briar Woods got every single bit of it. We'll see what the Falcons move forward doing, but obviously a rough sled for them this year, a team who just a few years ago went to 4 straight state championships, winning 3 of them. Washington Lee, they go ahead and clinch a playoff berth as they beat Yorktown 27-7 tonight, and it was Woodgrove over Loudoun Valley 28-8. Woodgrove, a tough one for them because they ended up losing their first game of the season to Champ, and that one decided everything as Champ went undefeated. Woodgrove went 9-1, didn't lose after that game. but the Wolverines find themselves on the wrong end of things when it comes to the Dulles District Championship, though, of course, Woodgrove and Champ very likely will see each other in the playoffs or when they get knocked out. But again, both those teams will be looking to go ahead and make some waves in the playoffs. We'll go ahead and take another break. We'll be back. We'll go ahead and run down the top 20 again. We'll look at tomorrow's games as well. We may even hear from another coach or two. So stay tuned for all of that. It's all coming up right here on the Final Drive here on DMVSTREAM.com. Want to get at us? Do it by tweeting us at DMVStream. That is, hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. That's DMVStream. Hashtag it with DMV Final Drive.
Looking for some of the best barbecue in the area? Well, then come on down to Monk's. Monk's Barbecue has all your favorites: delicious pulled pork, tender, moist brisket, and dry rubbed ribs that just fall off the bone, as well as specialty items like pulled chicken, pastrami, and Kansas City burnt ends. Add in delicious sides like Monk's special baked beans, smoked Gouda mac and cheese, vinegar coleslaw, and many more, and you can't get any better. That's Monk's Barbecue in the heart of Loudoun County, online at monksq.com. That's monks and the letter Q.com. And go to their Facebook page to find out more about their live music and drinks.
DMVSTREAM.com produces live broadcasts for professional, semi-pro, and amateur sporting events, as well as colleges, universities, high schools, AAU, and youth tournaments in the Mid-Atlantic. With a client list that includes ESPN, The Washington Post, Monumental Sports Network, CBS.com, USAFootball.com, USLacrosse.org, NCAA.com, the National Federation of High School Sports, and Georgetown University, among others, Synthesis Multimedia has emerged as the Mid-Atlantic's top provider of sports multimedia. Contact us today to learn more about streaming your events live.
Are you a fan of high school sports? Does high school sports attract the type of customers you want for your business? If so, then consider advertising here on The Final Drive. The Final Drive on DMVStream.com is a weekly show dedicated to high school football in the District, Maryland, and Virginia. We update scores and talk to the movers and shakers from Friday night's top games, and we preview the big matchups from Saturday's action. So consider being a part of The Final Drive. For more information about advertising on The Final Drive, contact Jeremy Huber at jrh0001@gmail.com. That's jrh0001@gmail.com. Montgomery Shade and Awning is a third-generation family business that sells and installs shade systems utilizing awnings and canopies. They specialize in both commercial and residential awnings and have been serving Northern Virginia since 1975. So check out what Rob, Lewis, Brian, and Tom can do for you. Montgomery Shade and Awning. Call 1-800-300-1941 or find them online at montgomeryawning.com. Welcome back into the Final Drive here on DMVStream.com. Jeremy Huber back with you. Again, a lot to talk about on tonight's show as we wrapped up the regular season in Virginia, wrapped it up also in Maryland as well, with a lot of things going on. Of course, games tomorrow as well. A lot of those with playoff implications. Going to run those down right now. We'll go in order of time. Avalon with a matchup against Calvert Hall tomorrow. That a 1 o'clock start. Friendship Collegian as they get ready for their matchup with one of the WCAC champ or maybe one of the runners-up, depending on what happens there in the DC State playoffs. They face off with Bergen Catholic tomorrow. Number 17 Episcopal looks to stay unbeaten as they host Georgetown Prep. Of course, that game is for the IAC championship. Of course, Episcopal will play again. They have their big game against Woodbury Forest next week. Riverdale Baptist at Loyola Blakefield. St. Albans, they will go ahead and take on St. Stephen St. Agnes tomorrow. Those all 1 o'clock starts. 2 o'clock. Surrattsville will be at Fairmont Heights. Surrattsville, despite a 2-7 record, can go ahead and make the playoffs with a win in that contest. if they can get a win, maybe get some help, but it will be big for them to go ahead and get a matchup tomorrow if they can beat Fairmont Heights. Fairmont Heights already in the playoffs in 1A North with before tomorrow's game. Central takes on Crossland tomorrow. Bishop Ireton hosting John Paul the Great in a 2 p.m. start. That one is big for the VISA playoffs. That's the Virginia Private School Tournament. That one really could shift who the 2 and 3 seeds are. Benedictine of Richmond likely the top seed. Ireton currently, I believe, ahead of John Paul the Great, though. Really, the winner of that game more than likely will be the number 2 seed, and the other one would probably go to them. Flint Hill, another team looking to be in that. Flint Hill's got a big game tomorrow against Sidwell Friends. That one will be for the MAC championship. Flint Hill currently the number 4 seed. They're looking to hold on to that positioning, so maybe we can get a few local teams in that tournament. Elsewhere, Laurel's at C.H. Flowers. National Collegiate goes to St. James. Number 14, Duval. They will host Oxon Hill. Of course, Duval, again, still looking to lock up the number 2 seed behind Wise in 4A South. Elsewhere, Eleanor Roosevelt hosting Parkdale. Eleanor Roosevelt already in after some of their wins. They are looking to go ahead and make sure they stay with that game against Duval, or likely matchup against Duval coming up next week. Fredericksburg Christian, that is, hosts Paul VI in a 2 o'clock start. All these 2 o'clock starts. Potomac of Maryland there at Forestville tomorrow. That one has some playoff implications. Potomac looking to go ahead and keep the number 2 seed, or number 1 seed, in the 3A South. They were ahead of Wheaton. Again, Wheaton's loss to Watkins Mill tonight likely means that Potomac will be the number 1 seed in 3A South with a win tomorrow over Forestville. Potomac School is at Murray. Bowie hosts Bladensburg. That's big for Bowie. A win there likely puts them into the playoffs in 4A South. Bullis is at Landon tomorrow. Sidwell Friends hosts Flint Hill in a 2:30 start. That one will be a big one, as that one will decide the MAC championship. Largo is at Douglas tomorrow. Largo gets the win there. Very good chance they can sneak into the playoffs. Douglas winning some help. We'll see what it can do for them. McNamara at O'Connell tomorrow. McNamara playing at a very important game, as if McNamara can get the win, Good Counsel losing already tonight, so really opens the door for some good possibilities for McNamara, as they, with a win in that contest and a St. John's loss to Gonzaga, this would be the scenario. We checked in with the WCAC earlier this week. They said that basically what will happen if Good Counsel lost tonight, St. John's loses tomorrow, McNamara wins, it all finish at 4-3. They'll all be tied for basically the 3 and 4 spots. They said that they're going to go down the list, and there's all the criteria. Basically, long story short, they're all tied with all the different criteria. So if that was the case, they would draw, we believe that means draw out of a hat for the number 3 seed, and then the 2 remaining teams would go head-to-head. So basically it would depend on who played who beat who. So could be any type of thing. So if you're St. John's, a win tomorrow is huge, because if not, your fate could really end up leaning on a draw of the out of the hat. So that's not what you want if you're the crew from St. John's. You cadets, you do not want that to happen. Elsewhere tomorrow in 2:30 games, it'll be St. Mary's Riken at Carroll, as those 2 teams likely wrap their seasons up. Mount St. Joe's hosting Spalding on 2:30, and W.T. Woodson there at T.C. Williams in a 3 o'clock start. And of course, the big one, number 1 Gonzaga hosting number 17 St. John's in a 3 o'clock start tomorrow. Should be a big one. Let's go ahead and wrap up again, take a look at the top 20 before we hit another break and come back and wrap things up after that. Again, number 1 Gonzaga taking on number 17 St. John's tomorrow, 3 p.m. start. Number 2 Damascus hosting Blair, or beat Blair tonight 41-7. With that win, Damascus likely locking up the number 1 seed in the 3A West. Of course, Blair, interesting situation. They came into the night as the Blazers needed a win to be in, and very likely Blair may be in anyway, because the Blazers, again, came in over top of Gaithersburg. They both played pretty good teams. Gaithersburg I believe they faced off with Seneca Valley. Blair faced off in their matchup tonight with Damascus, so no real advantage gained there. Blair had the advantage coming into the weekend, so it looks like Blair may have made the playoffs despite that loss, and they're rewarded to be playing a pretty good Quince Orchard team. Number 4, South County knocks off number 3, Lake Braddock in overtime in Burke, 33-30. And as the South County locks up the top seed with that win in 6A North, also they're your Conference 7 champions with that win. Number 5, DeMatha over number 18, Good Counsel, 28-23. It was number 6, Old Mill over Annapolis, 45-12. Old Mill wraps up 10-0 and wraps up the number 1 seed in 4A East. Number 7, Wise, they beat Suitland 40-0 tonight. Again, that opens the door for Bowie for the final playoff spot in 4A South with a win over Bladensburg tomorrow. Number 8, Tuscarora, they roared back to beat Broad Run 43-42. Another late final drive of the game win for Tuscarora as they finish up their second straight 10-0 regular season. Number 9, Westfield over Chantilly 28-14. It was number 10, Quince Orchard beating Paint Branch 38-14. Quince, their number 1 seed in 4A West. Paint Branch out of the playoffs. Number 11, Howard, they beat Atherton 49-27. Number 12, Sherwood over Einstein 42-7. One of those teams will be the top seed, we believe, in their region in 4A North. Don't know exactly who it's going to be yet, but one of those teams expected to be the top team in 4A North with that win tonight. Number 13, Seneca Valley over Gaithersburg, 35-0. Seneca Valley likely the number 3 in 3A West. They would go to Linganore. Number 14, Duval, they are at Oxon Hill tomorrow as they look to lock down the number 2 seed in 4A South in Maryland. Number 15, North Point over Northern, 35-0. The North Point likely going to be the number 2 in 4A East behind Old Mill. Number 16, Episcopal, they are at take on Georgetown Prep tomorrow on a 1 p.m. start. Number 19, Champ over Freedom of South Riding, 46-7. Champ wraps up their season 10-0. They're also expected to be the number 2 seed behind Jefferson Forest in 4A West in Virginia. Number 20, Madison, they wrap up the Conference 6 title as they beat Hayfield tonight, 53-20. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We'll be back with one more segment here on the final drive. Remember, if you're looking to get in touch with us, do it by tweeting us at DMV Stream, hashtag it with DMV Final Drive. Again, that's DMV Stream, hashtag it with DMV Final Drive.
Looking for some of the best barbecue in the area? Well, then come on down to Monk's. Monk's Barbecue has all your favorites: delicious pulled pork, tender, moist brisket, and dry rubbed ribs that just fall off the bone, as well as specialty items like pulled chicken, pastrami, and Kansas City burnt ends. Add in delicious sides like Monk's special baked beans, smoked Gouda mac and cheese, vinegar coleslaw, and many more, and you can't get any better. That's Monk's Barbecue in the heart of Loudoun County, online at monksq.com. That's monks and the letter Q.com. And go to their Facebook page to find out more about their live music and drinks.
DMVSTREAM.com produces live broadcasts for professional, semi-pro, and amateur sporting events, as well as colleges, universities, high schools, AAU, and youth tournaments in the Mid-Atlantic. With a client list that includes ESPN, The Washington Post, Monumental Sports Network, CBS.com, USAFootball.com, USLacrosse.org, NCAA.com, the National Federation of High School Sports, and Georgetown University, among others, Synthesis Multimedia has emerged as the Mid-Atlantic's top provider of sports multimedia. Contact us today to learn more about streaming your events live.
Are you a fan of high school sports? Does high school sports attract the type of customers you want for your business? If so, then consider advertising here on The Final Drive. The Final Drive on DMVStream.com is a weekly show dedicated to high school football in the District, Maryland, and Virginia. We update scores and talk to the movers and shakers from Friday night's top games, and we preview the big matchups from Saturday's action. So consider being a part of The Final Drive. For more information about advertising on The Final Drive, contact Jeremy Huber at jrh0001@gmail.com. That's jrh0001@gmail.com.
Montgomery Shade and Awning is a third-generation family business that sells and installs shade systems utilizing awnings and canopies. They specialize in both commercial and residential awnings and have been serving Northern Virginia since 1975. So check out what Rob, Lewis, Brian, and Tom can do for you. Montgomery Shade and Awning. Call 1-800-300-1941 or find them online at montgomeryawning.com.
Welcome back into the final drive. About to wrap things up here on the show. Of course, I want to thank our guests on the night. Head coach of the Tuscarora Huskies, Mike Burnett, his team with a big win over Broad Run tonight. Also, Marcus Lewis, head coach of Marriott's Ridge, his team with a big playoff clinching win over Reservoir. Team was looking to lock up the number 1 seed in their region, a level higher than Marriott's Ridge. So a big win for Coach Lewis's bunch tonight. Let's go ahead and run down your scores. Everything, we gave you the top 20 twice. We'll go ahead and give you Maryland, Virginia one more time. If you're looking for a score, this is the place to go ahead and get it. We're going to run them down for you rapid fire as we close things out. Right now, in D.C. tonight, Ballou beat Coolidge 38-12. H.D. Woodson over Anacostia, 42-0. It was Wilson over Dunbar, 34-7. Bell beat Phelps, 52-0. It was Eastern over Cardoza, 40-0. In Maryland, Arundel over Severna Park, 61-30. Poolsville beat Blake, 21-14. It was Broadneck over Southern, 35-6. It was tonight Glenelg over Centennial, 49-6. Chopticon over Great Mills, 24-0. It was Gwynn Park over Friendly, 34-24. Thomas Stone beat Huntingtown, 42-9. Northwood over Kennedy, 37-26. It was Lackey over Calvert, 27-21. St. Charles over Leonardtown, 37-21. Hammond over Longreach, 18-14. Magruder beat Rockville, 55-27. Marriott's Ridge over Reservoir, 7-6. McDonough over La Plata, 27-21. Glen Burnie over Meade, 23-12. It was Chesapeake over North County, 29-26. South River beat Northeast, 36-13. Northwestern over High Point, 36-0. Oakland Mills over Wild Lake, 40-32. Patuxent over Westlake, 42-6. Richard Montgomery beats Randallstown, 30-14. River Hill over Mount Hebron, 43-0. Clarksburg wins a shootout against Springbrook, 47-40. Churchill over Walter Johnson, 40-7. Watkins Mill downs Wheaton, 33-0. It was Whitman over Bethesda Chevy Chase, 26-20. Northwest over Wooten, 49-7. West Springfield over Annandale, 43-34. It was Brentsville over Culpeper, 28-19. Potomac Falls over Edison, 38-7. South Lakes knocks off Fairfax, 46-7. It was Colonial Forge over Woodbridge, 41-34 in double OT. Woodbridge beats Garfield, 17-0. George Mason over Central Woodstock, 43-19. Hilton over Forest Park, 52-0. It was Marshall over Jefferson, 52-7. Langley downs McLean, 27-7. Wakefield over Lee, 50-18. Loudoun County shocks Heritage, 43-41. West Potomac over Mount Vernon, 40-6. Oakton over Herndon, 35-0. It was Osborne over Osborne Park, 14-7. Dominion blows out rival Parkview, 59-0. It was Battlefield over Patriot, 34-19. Stafford over Potomac of Virginia, 20-16. Robinson downs Centerville, 28-7. Stonebridge over Briar Woods, 28-17. Washington Lee over Yorktown, 27-7. And it was Woodgrove over Loudoun Valley, 28-8. So that's all your scores. Again, real quick, want to go ahead and help you out if you're looking to find out exactly what's going on. It's advanced so much. I remember back when I was playing in Virginia, of course, we didn't have the internet really as highly evolved as it is now, so you couldn't get all the ratings at one touch of a button. So I remember you kind of had to sketch them out yourself if you really wanted to know what was going on. But, and of course, now you can. So a couple sites you really want to go ahead and check out. On Twitter, a really good site to catch up if you're looking for how things are breaking down in Virginia. It is at FLS Varsity. It's the Fredericksburg Ledger Star, I believe. Their Twitter account, really, their guy does a really good job when it comes to the playoffs. He's kind of working on seeding right now, and things, of course, going to be moving around a little bit. So if you want to check in on any, of course, he does it all because down in Fredericksburg, they've got teams all the way from 6A down to 1A. So he's got a pretty good handle. They got a pretty good handle of it down there. So again, if you want to check that out, it's FLS Varsity on Twitter. Check that out. If you're looking for Maryland, might be a website or two that really can help you out. The County Sports Zone, just type that into your Twitter browser. That will work for you. That gives you a lot of stuff. A couple other sites as well to check out in Maryland that can give you a heads up on guys who are kind of going through right now. MD Prep Football is another one. Those guys really get their stuff up pretty quick, so they may have already kind of broken everything down. I know the coaches are kind of doing it individually, making sure they are in or out and where they're going and who they want to go ahead and start studying film on. But again, that's a way to go ahead and check it out. If you're looking right now for what your team's doing, what your team may be going to next, that's really the way to do it. Those are your two different ways to kind of check things out in Maryland and Virginia. Well, that's going to go ahead and do it for us. We're going to go ahead and wrap this one up tonight. Again, thank you for joining us. Again, we'll be back next week, and the plan is this as we kind of wind our way down. It's going to be as we kind of see how many teams are still remaining. That's kind of where we'll go with the show. If teams kind of keep advancing towards state championships, we'll stick with it and maybe transfer this thing over into more of a preview show as games will be played on Saturdays once it gets a little bit colder and we get deeper into the season. But again, thank you so much for staying with us through another regular season and all these, of course, our interviews tonight. Marriott's Ridge head coach Marcus Lewis and Tuscarora head coach Mike Burnett. Thank them so much for joining the show. If you want to catch replays of those, you can do it on our website at DMV Stream. Navigate to the blog, to my personal blog. You can see episodes of the show. You can also find it on YouTube. But again, we love the web clicks, so go ahead and navigate through DMVSTREAM.com, and you can check out replays of the show. It'll be up there right after the show is over with. So go ahead and check it out if you want to catch a replay of this one. Another great show here on DMVStream.com. I want to thank everyone who listened, everyone who, again, joined us on the show. Good luck to all those teams making the playoffs, and go get them next week. Should be fun as we move forward. Lots of teams represented locally. Should be a fun one as we wind our way down towards state championships and all the different things. Conference championships should be a blast. Again, I'm Jeremy Huber. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Final Drive here on DMVStream.com. We'll see you next week.